All right, folks, it is time for World Politics. We'll see who joins us. By the way, there was a very lively discussion. You can find it on Pod TV Movies, which is our backup account, and everything like that. There was this afternoon, and it was definitely a great conversation that was had by Jonathan Lockwood, as well as our star, Sasha Star, and also Ivan coming from Kiev. But definitely, it was a lively discussion, almost an hour-long discussion, and they were definitely talking about what was going on with the summit and what is taking place both with the Putin summit as well as the Zelensky summit, and how there might be the summit that is one of the things that I'm going to be talking about. Trump is pushing for a meeting between Putin and Zelensky, and definitely some folks are asking where this summit could take place, a peace summit, and all along those lines. So we're definitely going to see what goes on in that space and what folks have to say about that and whether it will transpire or not. Air Canada says flights will resume Tuesday night after flight attendant strike ends. So Air Canada will resume flights after the pay deal was struck with the union. So that was earlier today. So Air Canada labor deal may reshape pay for North American airline crews as well. So definitely that is something that we're seeing also. And Israel is weighing Hamas' offer of 60-day Gaza truce and a hostage release. So that is definitely something that people are talking about as well. So Qatar confirms Hamas' positive response to a Gaza ceasefire proposal. So definitely this is something going on as Netanyahu is facing pressure from the far right over the new Israel-Hamas ceasefire proposal. So definitely that's something that people are talking about. Just like as I said earlier, Trump is pushing for a meeting between Putin and Zelensky. So definitely it might be interesting to see where this summit could take place, maybe in Turkey, maybe in some other part of the world, but it'll be interesting to see what transpires in this area. And Spain is battling record wildfires even as the end of a heat wave brings lower temperatures. So Spain is calling in more soldiers to fight the wildfires, and Spain has declared disaster zones after area twice the size of London was burnt. So Spain and Portugal fires killed two more as the Spanish troops are battling the blazes. And China pledges to address India's rare earth needs, Indian sources are saying, and India and China mend ties amid the Trump tariff threats. India's Modi meets China's top diplomat Wang as Asia powers are rebuilding their ties. So definitely that's something that folks will be paying attention to as well. And a woman was arrested in Bali over cocaine allegedly smuggled in sex toy, and she could face a death penalty if she is convicted. So that is something that people are talking about as well in terms of world news. Uh, Russia is launching its largest attack of August on Ukraine after the Trump-Zelensky meeting. So Russia responds to Washington talks with mass drones and missile strikes as they bombarded the Ukrainian city hours after the Washington summit. So it looks like Ukraine was hit by multiple Russian strikes amid U.S.-led push for an end to the war. And the son of the Norway's crown princess has been charged with rape and domestic violence. Marius Borg Holby, son of Norway's crown princess, has been charged with rape and abuse. So definitely we'll see how this charge goes and what happens in this space. Netanyahu said Australia's prime minister is a weak politician who betrayed Israel and abandoned Australian Jews and all along those lines. So Netanyahu lashes out at Albanese as a weak politician who betrayed Israel as the diplomatic row is escalating. So he says that he betrayed Israel and abandoned those Jews that are of Australian descent. So we'll see what folks have to say about this as well. So that is one of the stories that is going on in the world of politics and all along those lines. The sixth war Trump says he's ended and their current status. So Trump says he's ended 6 or 7 wars. So definitely among the wars is the one in Aberdeen, I mean not Aberdeen, but in the Congo, I believe is one of them. And there's a European war that he's saying that he ended as well. And there is a number of other wars that he has said that he has ended at one time or another. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pull up this article and see what all of the 6 wars that he supposedly has ended is. And of course, he's trying to say that he's trying to come to an end with what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. So yes, he's definitely claiming that he is trying to cast himself as a global peacemaker. His interventions have calmed some conflicts, while his in others his role is less clear. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that space. So President Trump often says that he has resolved multiple wars since taking office in January, and that he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Uh, and all along those lines, I'm averaging about a war a month, Mr. Trump said in July in Turnberry, Scotland. So on Monday at the White House during talks with President Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine, aimed at moving toward a peace deal with Russia, he referred to 6 wars that I've settled on Tuesday in an interview on Fox and Friends. He said he had ended 7 wars, though he did not specify which one he had added. So he said, I really want to go to heaven, get to heaven, Mr. Trump said in an interview, explaining his motivation for playing peacemaker, though he joked he was on the bottom of the totem pole. So every U.S. president has world conflicts landed on his desk, and Mr. Trump has used the power of his office, including the threat of economic penalties, to intervene in several this year, leading to a stop in fighting. In some cases, warring parties have credited him with advancing peace or calming hostilities. In others, his role is disputed or less clear, or fighting has resumed. So Armenia and Azerbaijan, that's the one I was trying to remember and everything. That's the one that he says that he brought the leaders of those countries to the White House this month to sign a joint declaration aimed at bringing their long-term conflict closer to an end. It was not a peace deal, but it was the first commitment toward one since fighting broke out in the late 80s when a weakened Soviet Union unleashed inter-ethnic strife in the Caucasus. So definitely that's one of the ones that he tries to claim, and all along those lines. He's also saying the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. In June, the top diplomats from Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo came to the Oval Office to sign a peace agreement aimed at ending a war that has raged for over 3 decades. Qatar also played a major role in that deal, which was intended to pave the way to a full peace agreement. Mr. Trump called the accord a glorious triumph, but talks on a comprehensive agreement have since faltered, and deadly fighting has continued. On Monday, the main rebel group in eastern Congo, known as the M23 and backed by Rwanda, threatened to renege on the U.S.-backed deal, claiming that its primary foe, the Congolese army, had broken its terms. Trump has also taken credit for mandating an end to a military escalation between the two nuclear powers, that being India and Pakistan, that broke out after a terrorist attack in Kashmir this spring killed 26 civilians. India has acknowledged the American role in mediating, but says it negotiated an end to the fighting directly with Pakistan. India claims that Pakistani officials asked for ceasefire talks under pressure from India's military assaults. Pakistan denies this and has thanked Trump for helping to end the hostilities. So there's definitely different accounts that have contributed to the deterioration of the relationship between Washington and New Delhi, which is also playing out in Trump's trade war. Pakistan was said it would nominate Mr. Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize for his mediation faces U.S. tariffs of 19%. India, on the other hand, faces a crippling 50% tariff, a rate that could crush the country's exporters. He's also claiming that he's done a lot in the conflict between Israel and Iran. So after 12 days of strikes in June that included U.S. attacks on Iranian nuclear sites, Mr. Trump abruptly announced a ceasefire agreement. He said that the United States had mediated it and claimed that Israel had turned around its warplanes at his behest. It was my great honor to destroy all nuclear facilities and capability and then stop the war, he posted on the Truth Social. Although neither side has disputed the American role in the truce, its durability remains in question. Talks have broken off between Iran and the United States on the future of Tehran's nuclear program, which Israel considers an existential threat. And while American intelligence assesses that the U.S. bombing badly damaged Iran's most advanced nuclear enrichment site, some experts believe that Tehran could eventually resume enriching uranium, which is needed to build a nuclear weapon at other sites. He's also claiming victory in the conversation between Cambodia and Thailand. The two Southeast Asian neighbors engaged this summer in days of fighting that killed at least 42 people and displaced more than 300,000, one of the bloodiest conflicts between them in decades. At the time, the Trump administration was discussing trade deals with a host of countries, and Mr. Trump said he had told the leaders of Thailand and Cambodia that he would stop trade talks unless they agreed to a ceasefire. 2 days later, officials met in Malaysia for talks organized by Malaysia and American officials and reached a deal to pause hostilities. And definitely, he's saying that he's hoping they get along for many years to come. But definitely, critics of Trump's approach say his intervention did not address the underlying issues of the conflict, though fighting has stopped. And he's also claiming victory in Egypt and Ethiopia. Egypt and Ethiopia face not a military conflict, but a diplomatic dispute over Africa's largest hydroelectric dam. So there are fears that it might descend into fighting, and Mr. Trump's diplomacy has done little to resolve the dispute. Ethiopia recently announced that it had completed the dam with an official opening scheduled for next month. Egypt and Sudan continue to oppose the project, fearing it will limit the flow of water from the Nile River to their countries. And so that's some of the ones that folks are talking about, and we'll see whether they maintain or whether they don't maintain, and what goes on in that sense and along those lines. But that's some of what people are talking about. I'm going to bring in Sasha Starr and everything like that, and all along those lines. So definitely, I guess he's claiming that he's got all these victories and everything like that. And by the way, I did announce to the people on the network before you joined, it was on POTV TV Movies, which apparently is our backup account. So definitely that is where your show is and where folks can find it. But that is the link that I sent you. So I don't know what else was going on there and everything like that. But that is where it's at, and it does exist there.
Okay, Mark, you mentioned all kind of world conflicts which
But
Trump settled or he didn't settle. It doesn't really matter. There is one real conflict today. It's Russia-Ukraine.
no
Everything
doubt.
else is secondary conflicts. That one country will win, another one will lose, and it's on a whole picture. It's really irrelevant. Mm,
No, then, like I said, I was waiting for you or somebody else to come by to give some context to why Trump's saying that he wants this Nobel Peace Prize, and now that's what he is claiming is that those are the six wars that he ended. Of course, he's also saying that he's going to have some talks between Zelensky and Putin, and now the question is, where will those talks be? So I guess that's the question I got for you. Will they be in Turkey? Because I know that Turkey was on the plate at one time or another, or will they be in one of the European countries if they meet Zelensky and Putin? And he's talking about them meeting in the next week or month at the latest and everything. Where would that meeting take place?
It would be much better if Trump already got his Nobel Prize and get out of this negotiation, so-called, because he is clearly on Putin's side. He's covering Putin all the way. For 8 months, he was completely inept to have any progress in a peace negotiation between Ukraine and Russia. For illustration, look what happened just in the last few weeks. So
Mm-hmm.
he announced that here's a Putin, you have 50 days. In these 50 days, either you stop the war, have ceasefire, or we will unleash economic sanctions against you and your counterparts who are buying your oil products. Then he cut it midway. He cut it. So there is only 10 days left. August 8th is deadline. That's it. Well, comes August 8th deadline. You see any sanctions
No
announced?
sanctions, no nothing.
No. Is there a ceasefire? No. Not only that, there is an invitation for war criminal to come to the United States and receive red carpet treatment from what's his name? Trump.
So,
What is that? So, okay, so he's got this royal treatment. They got into Trump's limo and stayed there for 10, 15 minutes, whatever time takes to bring them to the meeting site. What did Putin tell Trump during this few minutes? Nobody knows.
nobody knows.
However, Trump acted as okay, so he's there to negotiate. Negotiate what? He didn't get any even minuscule uh, concession from Putin. None. I'm going to fight. I need all Ukraine or biggest part of Ukraine and this. What kind of negotiations is that?
Yeah,
And it was clear to Trump by sending his Ambassador Witkoff. So what could Witkoff tell Trump that he already didn't know? What is that?
Yeah, I
Nobody
don't
knows
understand it. I don't understand it at all. I'm trying to figure this out and everything like that. It did look like there's more news out of the whole notion of oil and gas, even out of Russia, because I just saw that Reuters reported that Russian oil flow to Hungary and Slovakia halted after the Ukrainian attack and everything like that. So Budapest has threatened Kyiv with electricity cuts after strikes on their pipeline. So it definitely looks like there's still some of these other countries that are trying to figure out how they're being impacted by the war in Ukraine as well. So I know that there's been a lot of talk about even Russia getting oil from, I believe, India and stuff like that. So it looks like the oil part of the war is going on as well. But yeah, I'm still trying to figure out this whole notion of a ceasefire because it seems like right even before the conference, the summit yesterday with all the European leaders and Zelensky, and the one in Alaska, that there was a number of attacks by Russia. So it seems like their leadership is not listening to anybody anyway. So they're attacking regardless and everything. So I don't even think they've got a on their mind trying to stop this war. So it seems like they want the war to continue, even though it's hurting their economy. So that makes no sense to me. But then again, I don't live in a war torn country and everything, at least not as of yet, even though we do have all kinds of people coming by in government, like National Guards in our cities and everything like that. But it hasn't got to the point of it being on our doorsteps, which you've brought up several times, that the Ukrainians are doing a very brave job and everything like that. So what's your take? Do the Russians even want an ceasefire?
Well, first of all, you are absolutely right. The war doesn't stop at all. It's
Right.
even becoming more intensive. There is more bombardment of Ukrainian cities, killing civilians, including children, women, men, elderly people. Um, I think that Trump is overestimating his power over Putin. In fact, Putin is probably correct, thinking that Trump has no levers against dealing with Putin. None. But it was believed that he has two main levers. One is sanctions against Russia, which doesn't really mean much because there's a minuscule trade between Russia and US. It could be neglected completely. But more important is secondary sanctions against countries which are buying Russian-produced oil, primarily India and China. Now, India at first agreed not to buy Russian oil, but lately they started to make some movement saying that they are independent country and they are in charge of their own economic policies, what to buy, where to buy, at what price to buy, and so on. China simply ignored everything what Trump is trying to do, and actually there are only left two countries in the world left actually who haven't made any deals with Trump. It's China and, believe it or not, Canada.
Gotcha.
No, these two countries are absolutely ignoring all Trump's threats, demands, proposals, just name it. Because essentially, even European Union, which was a great announcement about 15% tariffs on all European products. You know what European Union said? They reserve right in uh, 6 months to decide on what sanctions they will impose on US products being sold in Europe. So this story hasn't even finished yet, too. Um, so the end of Alaska meeting, it was complete disaster. Putin was told to leave in 30 minutes. There was no dinner with a fabulous menu that just awful that Putin and his friends left hungry. I don't know what they're going to eat in their plane, bringing them to Moscow, and it will take probably 10, maybe 12 hours from Alaska to fly to Moscow. So they will be hungry, and I feel sorry for them.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a
Speaking of,
little.
yeah, speaking of feeling sorry, I did see some good news for you because I know that you are a world traveler and all along those lines, and it looks like the flight attendant strike ended earlier today. So that is somewhat political news, as you can now fly to your favorite countries in the Caribbean and even in Europe again without having to worry about a strike again. So it looks like they finally got their deal struck with their union. It looks like they are going to get back to the air after they've been on strike for a couple of days. So like I think it was one of our other people, it might have been Steve or Rick, were talking about how low their pay is, but I guess they negotiated at least a little bit better pay. And speaking of ceasefires and everything along those lines, and this one I know you've been following as well. Apparently, Israel is weighing a Hamas offer of a 60-day Gaza truce and a hostage release. So apparently, Qatar is confirming that Hamas gave a positive response to a Gaza ceasefire proposal, and Israel, as of about a half an hour ago, is weighing this idea and everything like this. So, are we going to see a ceasefire in Gaza? And will, even though he's not been in those talks, as far as I know, that's been like Qatar and some other countries, is Trump going to try to claim victory if there is a ceasefire in the Middle East and all along those lines? So they are saying that there could be a 60-day Gaza truce and the release of some hostages.
Okay, whatever it might be. Okay, there are more corpses of Israelis than alive. So whatever corpses they will pick up, those who are alive, I don't think they will live for long because obviously they were tortured. And, okay, so if that's happening, that's fine. I will not comment on that.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough and everything. You know, I know when Shaquille's been here, he's oftentimes talking about the Five Eyes countries, and apparently two of them are at each other, and part of it has to do with the treatment of the Jews in different countries and everything like that. So Netanyahu is lashing out at Albanese, who is the leader of Australia, the Australian Prime Minister, and he's calling him a weak politician who betrayed Israel. And he also is saying that he abandoned the Australian Jews and all along those lines. So just wondering your take on this political row, because this looked like another political fight between two leaders, that being Netanyahu of Israel and Albanese of Australia, who apparently are at each other's uh, I won't say throats, but at a disagreement with each other. So I don't know if you've been following this, and what is your take on this?
On my personal experience, there is a great deal of anti-Semitism here in Canada. And the only way how the Jews in Canada are protecting themselves and are organizing the defense themselves are working with RCMP, which is Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and this is keeping the Jewish community thriving and doing very well in Canada. And yes, there are some cases of open anti-Semitism and attacks, physical attacks on Jews. Unfortunately, it's happening from time to time. But again, since there are many more anti-Semites than Jews, so you can expect that from time to time there will be attacks against Jews, physical attacks I'm talking about, and you have to protect and defend yourself. There will be no one, no Netanyahu, nobody else will be defending the Jews, but the Jews themselves. It's the same thing as Ukraine has to defend itself. It has to win this war. There is no all this talks about ceasefire and peace talks. It's distraction. It's a major distraction for Ukrainians who believe, oh, wow, okay, so there will be a peace in a couple of days. So why do we have to go and fight Russians and with risk of being killed when the peace is right already there in next hour and a half? There's going to be a peace. No, there will not be a peace in an hour and a half. There will be no peace in a week and a half, in a month and a half. There will be no peace because with the
These
tyrants
conflicts would.
like Putin, there is only one way to defend against him, is to win the war. There is no things in vocabulary of all these American and European leaders, there's no word of victory, Ukrainian victory, the defeat of Russia. It's not in their vocabulary. They want to give, okay, a little bit, okay, this land is going to Russia, this land is going to you, and this, it's a kind of a talk of traitors, not really defenders of Ukraine. They're not defenders. And Trump, now we are coming to a meeting of yesterday in White House. So, what were objectives of different sides in this meeting? So we are talking about U.S., we are talking about European leaders, we are talking about Zelensky, and indirectly we are talking about Putin because
Right.
of course he was not present on this particular meeting, but Trump called him, and so indirectly he is participant. Okay, let's talk about that.
Mhm. Yep.
So Trump has only one thing in his mind. It's a Nobel Prize.
Mhm.
His prize. That's the only thing what he's really interested in. Because if it wouldn't be for Nobel Peace Prize, then Trump, in a present configuration where Europeans are purchasing American weapons, why what's a problem for US if this war will continue for say 10 years? What's a problem for US are grabbing all the money from the Europeans, delivering the weapons, so there are even more working spaces for America. There is more money coming to coffers of the producers of these weapons, therefore they will pay more taxes to US Treasury. So why hell US is trying to or pretending trying to stop this war? I don't understand. The Nobel Peace Prize, give it to him tomorrow. Give it to him this Nobel Peace Prize and get him out of negotiations because he's not negotiating anything. He provides cover for Putin for the last 8 months when he came to power. So he was trying a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Now, okay, when he offered a ceasefire quite early in his presidency, neither Zelensky nor Putin agreed to that for different reasons. Putin was afraid that in just 30 days of ceasefire, West will deliver a lot of weapons to Ukraine, so Ukraine will be even more ready to fight Russians. And Zelensky was afraid that Russia will mobilize even more people and bring more ammunition to the front lines or so on. So finally, as you remember, finally, Trump made Zelensky to accept proposal of 30-day ceasefire. Zelensky agreed. He signed. So now both U.S. and Ukraine are for 30-day ceasefire. All Europeans support this plan and so on. Putin, no, he doesn't care. He continues to fight. And actually, interestingly, that after each telephone conversation with Putin and Trump, the Russian bombardment of Ukraine just intensified. So if country really wants to be part of a peace agreement, why would they intensify bombardment and killing more and more people? So going on for several months. Trump hasn't made even an inch of a progress. There is no progress, period. But there are no sanctions and there is no sending weapons to Ukraine. So he is providing Putin cover that he doesn't have to worry about sanctions or sending more weapons to Ukraine. So he can, for a foreseeable future, he can continue the bombardment of Ukraine, and he really provides cover for Putin to do that without worrying about anything. On the other hand, let's be fair about something. Can Trump really impose these secondary sanctions against India, China, whoever else? I think that no, he is unable to do that. China ignores his sanction. He doesn't yield at all in his negotiations with Trump, if there are any negotiations. I'm not even sure about that. So, uh, United States, who is fighting actually all the world with all the tariffs, uh, I don't think that they're economically, with all this debt approaching $40 trillion, I don't think that U.S. economically is in the position to impose any sanctions. So that's an empty threat.
Yeah,
So another thing what he could do is to intensify delivery of weapons through Europeans, mechanism of agreement, so-called, which is screwed as anything else. He's creating his own corporation where all Europeans have to send the money to that corporation. That corporation will distribute the orders to actual US military producers for this. This is convoluted, and it's just a sign of a corruption, and it will take time to implement all that. And guess what? Okay, so let's imagine that the next several months there will be some U.S. Some weapons. Let's see. I'm not even talking about the weapons of used ones, ones that are coming from U.S. Weapon depots and so on. Okay, so let's imagine that it will be a good working uh, weapons. But there is a China, there is
right.
a North Korean Republic, there's still Iran. Oh, Iran is still alive, trust me. It or not, it's alive. And there is all kind of a world south, some Brazil, maybe even India. Who knows what else is there? So they're going openly support Russia and sending their arms. So what would that be achieved? Nothing. So in this situation, Trump has no powers to deal with Putin, and Putin knows that very well. That's why he ignores all Trump's proposal. And okay, I'll do for you this, and here is some rare earth metals, and here I'll give you some piece of action in Arctica. We are going to build some new oil refineries here and there, and so on. Do it in Africa, do it in North Ocean, or whatever else. This is all fantasies. The man is
Fantasy.
in fantasies. He is not real.
You think
He keeps lying and lying, and everybody knows that. So all his words now in Alaska, he's talking about for 8 months about ceasefire, 30-day ceasefire. He talks to Putin for an hour and a half, and now he comes. There's no need for ceasefire. Hey, there's no need there. No ceasefire. We are going to build a peace, a real peace, with all these peace negotiations. Ukrainian guarantees it will take 18 to 24 months to arrange all that, to put it on paper, to agree with everybody. That's what's really happening. So Trump, for 8 months, he provided cover to Putin to do everything what he wanted to do. And now Ukraine heroically resists Russia.
Yeah.
West, including United States, for the last 80 years, they lived under the threat of a nuclear Armageddon, thermonuclear, if you want to call it, just
Right.
as well. And now a little Ukraine resists and destroys Russian economy. Russian army needs a little bit of a help, and West say, no, okay, we lived 80 years, so we live another 80 years. We'll see.
We'll definitely see. Do you think Trump maybe offered Putin one of his cyber coins? Since Trump is all into the cyber coins, and maybe he offered Putin a cyber coin of his own, and all along those lines, since he's got all these coins that he's named after his relatives. Maybe he offered Putin a coin of his own, and all along those lines. So maybe we're going to get the Putin cyber coin.
Well, it's difficult to comment on this irrelevant talk between two idiots, really. I mean, it's either this or that, but it's irrelevant, really.
Yeah. It's irrelevant. Like I said, it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that space, but we're going to find out. And like I said, the conversations are continuing, and they're definitely talking about other things that are going on. I did see another political story that was interesting. You might not find it as interesting, but apparently there is a popular piece of housing that is here in the Americas, both in North America and all of North America. I know it's popular in Canada, just as it's popular here in the United States and everything. And a lot of people love their motorhomes, those that are not able to get a real home and everything like that. So apparently, there's a lot of uproar because conservationists, those that are upset in the rainforest over there in South America, are saying that we're destroying that because apparently you have to clear those woods in order to get them to build these RVs, because a lot of those RVs are built with tropical wood, and so they causing the disappearance of one of the world's largest forests and everything like that. So I guess our greed, meaning American greed, of wanting these kinds of homes is the reason that the orangutans and the clouded leopards and the sun bears might be getting a little bit upset, because apparently they've cleared a woodland the size of more than 2,800 football fields in just a few days, and all along those lines. So, and all of this is to build more motorhomes. So I was just wondering your thoughts around this, because apparently this tree, the Meranti, is a species found mostly in Indonesia and other parts of Southeast Asia, and their tropical hardwood is of particular interest to one industry in the United States, which is the manufacturers of motorhomes. So apparently they're clearing out a lot of this territory, which has got a lot of environmental benefits and everything in order to get these homes and everything, because apparently the United States is the world's largest producer of recreational vehicles, and it relies for decades on Morandi, which is also known as Luan. So apparently they turned this into plywood that is lightweight, moisture resistant, flexible, and cut into thin sheets, and RV makers use it for the interior walls, flooring, cabinets, and other features. So I guess we're just going to have more destruction of this environmental area, because the RV industry wants it. So apparently the American RV industry has long portrayed itself as a good steward of the environment. It calls on its consumers to protect public lands and promote its vehicles as a way for people to connect with the great outdoors. But apparently one of their big RV makers, Store Industries, says its suppliers are forbidden by U.S. law to buy illegal timber, and Winnebago says that it is committed to preserving the planet. So they're saying one thing, but apparently doing another. So any take on this, and we'll get ready to end probably a little bit early and everything, but any take on this in terms of your thoughts on this wood being used to build the Winnebagos?
I'd rather go to next question. There is nothing to discuss, really. It's a nice ploy to extract more money from U.S. Producers of this recreational vehicles, and it's not something that, in my opinion, would interest the audience.
That's fair enough. Like I said, we'll see what goes on. Apparently, demands for RVs in the United States soared to a record during the pandemic, and now more than 8 million American households have one. I know I've got some relatives, got some myself, and everything like that. So they're not exactly cheap. So it is something that impacts folks, because as we know, there's been a housing crisis, and that's one of the ways that people were getting past housing was buying these mobile homes in order to live in them and all along those lines, because it's like a movable home and everything like that. So I know they said one lady that was an architect in Charleston brought one for her family of four in 2020. Her 24-foot Winnebago Mini Winnie cost 77,000, which is a lot cheaper than a house and everything. So I do know that people are doing that. Matter of fact, across from my job, the cultural arts center that I work at and everything, there's even people that are building tent cities and everything along those lines. So people are trying to find housing any way that they can. If they can't get an apartment, if they can't get a house, some people are using their Winnebagos or their RVs. We used to use one as the way to house the artists when we were doing the blues festival, and hopefully the blues festival will be coming back next year and everything like that, after having been abandoned for a few years. But that was our place that we stored the stars. And so the stars stayed in the RVs because we had an agreement with them. And I'm not even sure if those RVs had this particular kind of wood. I've got to do some research and find that out and everything. But it is an issue that a lot of people are concerned about. I don't know how it is in Canada if y'all got a lot of homeless people and if they're doing a lot of tent cities, but it is a problem. I know Rick has talked about what's going on in California. We've got it here in this area. There's several tent cities and everything like that. So you're not having any tent city problems in Canada?
There are problems in Canada, and in fact, what's interesting is that Canada has colder climate than US. So
Right.
being homeless in Canada probably much more challenging than in US. However, we don't have, like, see on the streets of Toronto, we don't see homeless people. Although there were cases in the past, and I saw it myself, when homeless people refused to go into a place where they could have at least a place to stay, at least during the winter time. And they refused. They were hiding in places where there were a warm air was coming out of the ventilation systems, and they were staying close to there, so it was warmer, and that's what they wanted to do. They didn't want to go into some organized uh, places where they could have a decent night to sleep. And this is okay. It's a psychological issue more than anything else, because it seems to me I even remember a movie where parents of one girl, she was quite successful working and so on, and they were homeless and they were on the streets, and she couldn't get them out of the streets because that's what they wanted, that's what they enjoy, the freedom, the lifestyle, and so on, the mm, sense of self-reliance that essentially they had to look for food almost every day to survive, and that's what they wanted to do. That's they felt that that's a challenge, and they were thriving to overcome these challenges. So it's difficult for me to. Well, I haven't, thank God, been on the street, so I feel for those people. On the other hand, I don't understand what's the solution to that, especially if a lot of these people they don't want any alternative lifestyle.
Yeah, it looks interesting. And by the way, it looks like Newark Mayor Ross Baraka, who was arrested for trespassing, but the charges was dropped and everything because this is all has to do with the immigration situation, which has also been a major political story here in the United States. But the federal officer who arrested the mayor of New Jersey's largest city outside an immigration detention center in May suggested he was making the arrest at the direction of the Justice Department's number two, which is Todd Blanche, and everything along those lines. So he's, according to law enforcement body camera footage described in a new court filing. So the court filing from Representative LaMonica McIver, Democrat from New Jersey, sheds new light on the chaotic scene on May 9th when Democratic lawmakers and Newark Mayor Ross Baraka attempted to conduct an oversight visit and clashed with immigration agents. So how are y'all dealing with immigration in Canada? Like I said, we'll get ready to wrap up. I thought I saw Jacoby coming in, but he looked like he was having some tech issues and everything like that. But how are y'all dealing with the immigration issues? Because I know there are immigrants in Canada as well, some from the United States, but also some from the different African nations and the Caribbean nations and stuff like that. So how are y'all dealing with immigration since it was a major issue politically here in the United States, even during the political campaign?
Well, there is a certain process, well confined and detailed, where you file the application. There are a lot of questions about your biography, your skills, your language knowledge. It's quite complicated document. You can file yourself. You can hire a lawyer for a fee who will do it for you. And essentially, they're all going into a special immigration agency, and some people will be accepted, some people will be rejected, and just like anything else, there's no clear cut that would guarantee you right to be accepted by Canadian immigration officials.
That makes sense. What are y'all going to be talking about on modern investment on tomorrow? I know that I think Toby had saw something that he was going to mention before you left on the news show and everything about what's going on with NVIDIA, whether it's up or down, and all along those lines. And of course, we do have things going on with the Google Pixel and stuff along those lines. So, what are y'all going to be talking about and everything along those lines in terms of modern investment tomorrow afternoon?
Well, this week is very challenging, and it already started today, where all stocks, including Nvidia and just name it, they all went down quite significantly because of this upcoming meeting in Jacksonville, in Florida. On Friday, there will be a speech of Jerome Powell, and that keeps investors very uneasy. And there is that's, in my opinion, probably the only reason. Maybe I'm missing something, but that's a major reason for sure. That today was quite a lot of blood on the street, and I expect that could continue on tomorrow, probably until Friday.
Wow. So it's going to continue till Friday. So hopefully it'll turn around at the beginning of next week and all along those lines. If it's going to be
Could
a
be.
down for period now, but we do know that the market fluctuates and everything. We know that Milan loves to invest in
Yes.
the S&P 500 and everything like that. And I know y'all will go back and forth in that debate as to which strategy is better. And hopefully Jim Eid will be joining you as well. So if those that are following some of the other tech news that's got there, apparently Gamescom is going on right now, which is about gaming and also a lot of technology news. And Spotify latest feature is letting you add your own transitions to the playlist. So you basically can become your own DJ and all along those lines. So Spotify has added that, I guess, to try to appeal to the younger people and all along those lines. But on that note, we're going to get on out of here. We've got definitely the show that comes on at 6 o'clock, which is from St. C Academy, which is a charter school, and they'll be talking about history because it's a historical school as well, where they talk a lot about African history, but also African American history and other histories as well. So that comes on at 6 o'clock every Tuesday, right after this particular show, and all along those lines. And unfortunately, this will be a repeat episode because she did lose a member of her family. Her son actually died of a heat stroke not that long ago. So our sympathies do go out to Miss Mama Noni and all along those lines because she's still dealing with the loss of that son and is actually even going to grief therapy. But hopefully, we'll see her back in the near future as she continues to try to heal both herself and her family that is going through these trying times and all along those lines. So that'll be coming your way at 6, and at 7 o'clock we'll have Sharon Campbell talking about ways to plan to prosper because she does a lot in terms of business development, not so much investment like you do, but in terms of businesses finding a way to prosper as well. So on that note, we're going to get out of here. As always, it was fun having you on, Sasha, and we'll see who else joins us on Thursday and all along those lines. And of course, we'll have World Edition tomorrow and all along those lines. And we'll continue to follow what's going on in the biggest story which is out there, which is Ukraine and Russia, and whether we'll see a ceasefire as well as what's going on in Israel. But as always, it's been a fun conversation, and I look forward to seeing you later on. And I know that definitely they're trying to get you on to this other national show because I did see the emails from you and Jonathan and all along those lines. So I'm going to end this show, and me and you can have a conversation afterwards about other things as well. But right now, let's get on out of here. So it's been a fun show, and we'll talk on tomorrow morning as well.
Thank you, Mark.
No problem.
Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.